Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Crimson by me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we are doing chapter 20. Alex looked at the thing Jennifer was holding. You're joking, right? You pulled me out of bed for that? She banged on the door and demanded he come with her. She offered it to him and he backed away. No, I'm never touching one of those things again. Why not? Her tone was calm. Alex shuddered. You handled it well enough already. Are you insane? He yelled, trying to insult her. I've held a gun exactly twice. Exactly 2 times in my entire life, and both times I ended up killing someone. That's sort of the point of them, she replied, her tone even. I didn't want to kill them. He turned to leave the room, but the door wouldn't open. He spun. The first guy, Samson, he startled me and the thing went off. I never meant to kill him. The other one, I didn't want to. His voice trailed off. The nightmares hadn't stopped. 3 nights of them, each time, he killed the man. Couldn't stop himself. Tristan encouraged him, kept encouraging him, and Duke did the same. And now he couldn't help feeling like he needed less and less prompt. I don't even know his name, he whispered, and then looked at Jennifer. Damn it! If I'm going to kill someone, I should at least know who he is. I don't want to have anything to do with those things. She snorted. So what? You want to take them out to dinner, exchange life stories, then grab a knife and look them in the eyes while you gut them? You really want to get your hands bloody like that? Alex felt this Alex felt his stomach turn as he envisioned feeling someone's breath on his face as he plunged the knife into them. Felt horror as their bodies sagged onto his. Felt horror as this body sagged into his. It's gonna be a comma here. On their way down, clutching at him, trying to keep from dying. Yes. I might be 6. If I ever kill anyone else again, I want to see it, to feel it. I want to see the horror on their face, because if no one else is going to hate me for doing something that horrible, at least the victim should get to do it. A raised eyebrow was the only indication of surprise at his decision. Maybe it sounded crazy. Good. If that was what it took to make her realize the folly of teaching him to kill people, then so be it. She nodded. Okay, I know someone. Is she serious? She thought for a moment. I'll take some convincing, but I can get him to teach you how to handle a knife. She couldn't be serious. Alex felt like he was going to be sick. She offered him the gun. Now take this. Anger pushed the nausea away. Tried to slap the weapon away, but she moved her hand. Didn't you listen to anything I said? He screamed. I don't? Yeah. You don't want to kill anyone by accident again. I get it. She offered him the gun. That starts with you knowing how to handle one of these so that when you shoot someone, they'll only die if you want them to. Alex looked at the gun. It was smaller than the one Perry had left him, and much smaller than the one he'd stumbled on in the lounge. It was barely larger than his hand. He felt the revulsion, and he pushed it down. She had a point. He had close to a year left on the ship. He couldn't be naive enough to think there wouldn't be another attack. He didn't want to use one of them, but he might have to defend himself. His hand shook as he took it out of her hand. Good, he said. Let's start with how to handle it so you won't hurt yourself. It's your place, Anna said. Alex looked up from the console around Mancille's lab. Thanks. What was she doing here? Funny. Get up, we'll do for you some training. Not more of that, he protested. I just got out of learning how to take out and change vital components on a gun 2 hours ago. She smirked. Well, we still need to work on your hand-to-hand training. Why? Andrew's going to leave me alone now. Right, because he's such a loving fellow. Out of the chair, now. Look, I appreciate it, but I have more. She grabbed his arm and pulled him out. Stop whining. You need this. He stared at the phone on his plate. Come on, Carlita. I can't live on this stuff. Let me at least have some of the lasagna. No. And don't you think about it. You can sneak in here in the middle of the night and eat whatever you want again. Doc's order. You're going to lose weight. Well, I must spend the last hour kicking my ass. I need comfort food. Want comfort? Found someone. Ghetto hog. No wonder Will's scared of you. Alex grumbled. You're mean. And? She asked, her tone threatening. Nothing? He replied, taking his tray and joining Perry and Will at a table. Looked at us. You looked at the steak, vegetables, and bowl of flavored jelly, he sighed. At least he'd managed to have 2 meals of delicious, greasy food before this. Have to let the memory carry him through the rest of the trip. With me, Will said. Where? Alex asked, pulling his shirt on. Just come. No, damn it, Will. Anna and Jen kept me from doing any work yesterday. I'll exercise another day. The young man canted his head. Not that, he said as Alex's meaning registered. Gotta show you something. Alex sighed and put his shoes on. Even before he was standing again, Will grabbed his arm, and Alex had no choice but to follow him. They moved down and toward the back. Aft, stern? Will kept telling him, but the terms hadn't stuck yet. The door opened, and Alex found himself in a large room. He thought the lounge had been big, but this was larger. Couldn't see the ceiling in the darkness, and the walls and shelves had crates on them. This is the cargo hold, he said. Barely remembered it from when he'd boarded, but it had to be it. Each crate had a display attached to it, and he knew from his time between school sessions where he'd worked at the warehouse his father ran that they contained information about the content, provenance, and destination, although that wouldn't be where they were going anymore. This is all from the other ship? Alex asked. Shells vanished into the distance. Some, he replied. Leia, he called, and to a woman leaning on top of a large crate and rummaging through it. She looked in their direction and waved. Crimson, Leia. Will made the introduction as they were standing next to a crate. Leia, Crimson. Why am I Crimson and she's Leia? Alex asked. Will just looked at him. Why use my last name in her first? Leia's your first name, right? The woman nodded, then dropped off the crate. Anders is the last name, but Will, Anna, Jennifer, and Perry are first name. So why use my last name? It fits, was Will's answer. Alex looked at Leia, but she shrugged. Crimson, said, grinning, work the computer. She smiled. So you're the guy who made this job so easy. She shook his hand vigorously. It's a pleasure to meet you. Alex shrugged. It isn't like I did that much. It doesn't like I did all that much. Are you kidding? She motioned around them. We got this because of you. We got all of this because keep dropping words. I guess if I keep dropping them, they're not needed. It was going to happen with or without me, Alex protested. Sure, but easily half the cargo would have gotten damaged while fighting security. We got no damage this time around. Well, except for the crates those 2 idiots managed to drop on themselves. We've never had such a successful haul. Alex blushed. He'd been congratulated for his work by a lot of the crew, but this was the first time he got to see the impact of what he'd done. Although, now that he thought about it, each person who tanked him might have died if he hadn't been there, so he had seen the impact from the start. Just worried that we're going to get used to having you around to help. We're going to get lazy, and the day you're not here, we're really going to pay for it. So, next time I should let some guards slip past me to keep you on your toes and all? She grinned. Don't do that. Just tell me when you're leaving so I can jump ship and go with you. I don't like getting shot at. When I leave, it isn't to go to another ship. Once I found Jack, we're settling down. Really? She studied him. You're just going to take your cut and run? Never heard of anyone actually leaving the life like that. Plenty talk about it, but they always end up sticking around. What do you mean, my cut? Doesn't he know how this works? She asked Will. Didn't explain. He's a passenger. Wasn't gonna do no nothing. Explain what? You're entitled to a share of all this, Leo said, indicating the hold. We all get an even share once I'm done appraising. Once I'm done appraising it, we'll start. Some more even than others. The captain is entitled to more, she said. He's the one who made all this happen. What Andrews do? Gabriella? Joe? Mitchell? Joe? Okay, she turned. Some get more. But I'm not going to complain on a haul like this. We're all going to get rich. Well, what exactly was on the ship? Alex asked. Plenty of stuff. Antique computers, house stuff. Oh, and we actually got wine this time. What's so uncommon about wine? Plenty of it passes through my past. Plenty of it passes. Eh. I'm gonna go with pass. It could be present, since as far as he knows it's still happening. Plenty of it passed through my father's warehouses. Well, chuckled. Got conned. Alex looked at Leah for an explanation. He didn't feel like having to parse his friend's truncated speech. We picked you up at our last stop, right? That are on 4. Yeah, she nodded. The ship we attacked before that was supposed to be carrying valuable wine, the really rare stuff. It went well enough, got every crate back here, and only lost a quarter of them to damage. Not as good as if Crimson here had been there to help, she grinned, but good enough. Anyway, I got started on the inventory and appraisal once everything's quiet, but instead of crates of wine, we have grapes. You mean unfermented wine? Grape juice? Not even that, just grapes. The fruit, little ball-shaped things. How did anyone confuse grapes for wine? We didn't. The manifest clearly stated they were carrying wine. Even the tag said it was wine. But it was really grapes. Alex remembered a comment about wine at some point. Yep, in preservation boxes. So it was an error on loading? Those had happened when he worked at his father's warehouses, but he didn't recall ever being on the scale of an entire cargo. That, or it was a scam, and we got to them before they were going to officially be attacked and lose the cargo. All I know is that the captain was pissed, and we had to act like the merchant we claimed to be. I can't remember the last time we sold cargo on the open market. The stuff we have is usually too easy to identify. I guess that's the risk of piracy. You can't go back and complain about not getting what you were after. Leah grinned. Yeah, well, that's not the biggest risk. Getting shot is. At least without you around. Alex blushed again. You said you'd gotten computers. What kind? If they're good enough, I'd like to grab some. Sears lab is decent, but the stuff there is old. Sure, I'll deduct their value from your share. She leaned back against the crate and began to search on the data. After 5 minutes, Alan wondered what was taking so long, and he glanced over her shoulder. She was manually looking at each line. Why don't you run a search function? No, the damn thing's crazy. I'll ask my computer and I'll end up with a crate of tomatoes, if it brings anything at all. Last time I tried it, it dropped the crate on me. I was lucky to jump out of the way in time. I spent days cleaning pebbles after that. You've stolen pebbles? No, statues. Some old thing from a lost planet or something, but they were stone. You drop that from high enough, and pebbles is all you have left. Alex looked up at the ceiling he couldn't see. Just how high was it? Don't worry, Neil said. The grappler is locked right now. Suppose. Well, it should be. I've been working on healing the ship's systems, right? Really? I haven't noticed any improvements. I've been working on the central processor for now. I'm at the point where I can start integrating other systems in. If you want, I can start with the whole inventory management. It's a fairly simple system, so it shouldn't cause a relapse. She looked up from her tablet. If you manage that, I'll give you half my share. I'll help. We'll pipe up. She grinned at him. You don't capture stuff. Alex said with a smile. The downside is that I'll have to take the system offline while I'm working on it. I'm looking at a few days without being able to move anything about. That's okay, she said, going back to her search. I'll bring down enough crate to appraise to last me while you're doing that. It isn't like we're going anywhere until I'm done. Why not? The captain needs to know how much everything's worth before we can sell it. He said to do the appraisal on this side of cryo this time. Why not do it while the rest is in? Why not do it while the rest of us in cryo instead? I get you'd age more, but it'd be by a couple of weeks, right? Alex shuddered. I'm not staying up alone. She lowered her voice. This place gets creepy when everyone's haunted. Will said, You're joking. No, he replied. Didn't anyone tell you about it? She looked too ill. Passenger, young man said, as if that answered it. Well, I heard this from a guy I know. His wife had to do some repairs while we were under. She told him the ship spoke to her. It tried getting her to kill himself. Lex rolled his eyes. Come on, your friend was putting you on. Not my friend, just some guy I know, she said. Bunkmate I knew, Will said, speaking slowly. Woke up in the middle of the trip. Bed worked wrong. Got lost in the halls. Doors not working. Walked around for days. Only door that worked was airlock. Come on, that can't happen. Where is he now? Left. Didn't take cut. Just left once docked. Never saw him after. Everyone has a story like that, he'd say. It just can't happen. Do you have any idea the number of safeguards and redundancies there are on a ship like this? All true, Will said. Alex knew they were putting him on. It had to be. Taking control of a handful of systems, that was one thing, but for someone to turn a ship murderous, it couldn't be done. It just couldn't be. The safeguards to prevent life were embedded in the core programming. When the computer was built, it wasn't something that could be modified by any outside force. He spent the next 15 minutes trying to explain why their stories made no sense, and then decided it wouldn't do any good. Unless they knew ship programming, it would simply be his word against that of those who claimed to have gone through it. When he heard movement above him, Alex looked up and then hurried to the side of a shelf, away from the large claw bringing down a crate. He was amazed at how large it was, 20 feet high at least. Leia hooked a ladder to the side and climbed on it. Alex checked the display, but all he got was an identifier code that meant nothing to him. He heard the hatch open, and then a moment later, Leia reappeared with a box half her height, as wide as she was and almost a foot thick. Get ready, she said, leaning it against the ladder's side and lowering it. Alex cut the bottom, rubbed him down, and looked at the box over for identifying mark. All he found was a brand name, Caldari. He smiled, knowing he'd take this. Well, you asked. Give me a minute. I need to figure out which model it is. Big, Will commented. Alex found the scene and unsealed it. Yeah, this isn't just a terminal. It's an entire system. Display, processor, connector, everything needed to incorporate it into an existing setup. Any good? Alex grinned at him. It's Caldari. Even if those were all rechecks, I'm going to want one. Pulled out the display and turned it over, then whistled. Leia? He called. Are they all the same? He asked, already confident of the answer. There had only been one identifier code. According to the manifest, yeah, why? You're going to want to let anyone on the ship who has even a passing interest about this know. They're C-34-8S. So, he looked up at her, grinning. They weren't on the market when I left Delaron 4. You scored one of the most recent version of a top-of-the-line system. The people I work for would kill for them. Well, figuratively. Will, pass the word along. A thought occurred to Alex as he put the display back. Actually, you might want to talk to the captain, too. If there's a decent hardware engineer on the ship, once I'm done healing the computer, these can be used to boost its capability. Well, sure thing. Yeah. Will, she asked. Sure thing, he answered. So, you'll take one? Alex asked him. One? Hell, I want 4 of them if Micah allows. I'm really going to upgrade the Sears console with them. That's ship upgrade, Will said. What does that mean? Leia came down the ladder. It means they don't come out of your cut. Anything that's an actual upgrade is just taken out. Okay? Alex looked at the box. I'm not sure how I'll get 4 of them to the lab. Don't worry about it. I'll have them transferred there, and Nasir can help you install them. She knows that stuff. Alex was surprised. He didn't know anyone who knew both programming and hardware installation. He watched as Leia drove over a cart with a smaller claw, and she moved boxes out of the crate and onto the cart. She disappeared with them and came back with a cart that looked identical, except it didn't have the claw. Followed her as she slowly drove that out of the hold and through the corridors. The terminal at the intersection caught his eyes. He stopped while Leia continued on. What they'd said bothered him. He could see a system getting some glitches and doing things like making noise and not wanting to open some doors. Considering how screwed up this computer was, he was surprised there weren't any more instances of that. But to tell a crew member to kill herself? To lead someone to an airlock and try to get him to space himself? Tap on the screen, waking up. It got a list of maps, search function, and environmental control. He didn't remember seeing that on such a terminal before. Not that he'd used any of them after his first week. He'd learned just how unreliable they were when he tried to learn the ship's layout. He went through more of the options, and it brought up power consumption, engine output, and capacitor charges. Those were strange things to be on a hull terminal, but there had to be a reason they were there. He wasn't an engineer after all. He entered a series of commands and the interface vanished, letting him see the code. Letting him see all the code. I guess I'm overusing all at this stage of my writing. Letting him see all the code, which as he expected, was a chaotic jump. Took him 10 minutes to restructure the view into something he could work with. No actual changes to the system, well, just adjustment to how it displayed information. Then it was 15 minutes of searching for where the safeguards were coded. He knew where they were on the Luminex system, not that they were as extensive as they'd be here. That system only controlled climate control, power distribution, and some other security functions. Here, there would be more of them, only he wasn't finding any. As a way of double-checking, he located the airlock function and confirmed they were working. Doors could open and close, air could be pumped in and sucked out. The sensors could tell when someone was in and if they were in a suit. But there weren't any overrides preventing the outside door from opening if someone wasn't wearing a functioning suit. Alex felt his stomach drop when he located a command that specifically ordered the airlock to cycle if it detected someone without a suit in it. You have to report that to the captain, he thought as he modified it. He didn't erase it since he wanted to show him it was there. If they had someone on the ship sabotaging the airlock, they had to be identified. He was about to bring up the interface to send the captain a message when the command rewrote itself, removing the snippet of code he'd added to neuter it. It took Alex a moment to react to it. He could only do a cursory check, but he was confident there wasn't anyone else in the code. So, who had removed this fragment is added safeguards? He erased the command entirely. It rewrote itself. Still no indication it had been an outside action. He couldn't even see programmers. He couldn't even see programs someone might have left to ensure the program wasn't tampered with. He erased it again, and as before, the command rewrote itself. There was no outside influence, which meant it was internal, but there weren't any programs there, just the usual antibodies. That's impossible. Put his earpiece on, and the screen that came from it, once it connected, threw him to the ground. He ripped it out of his ear, and the end was covered in blood. Not caring about the pain or the blood, he went back to the screen and tracked down commands and subcommands. Antibodies couldn't be hijacked. They were hard-coded into a processor, so the only thing that could change them was the processor itself. He had to find out which of the major processors controlled that system at the moment, because if it was so insane it had managed to remove its safeguard protocol and added some to purposely injure the crew, it had to be shut down immediately. After 10 minutes, he had his answer. Airlock, door, hull terminal, as well as all the other usual systems for it were all controlled by the engineering processor. The only reason it hadn't blown the ship was that it still had a survival instinct. It also couldn't blow up some of its hardware to hurt people, since that would both hurt it and draw attention to what it was doing. At least it was only minor stuff it could do. It wasn't as if it could void the ship or pump it full of carbon monoxide. Alex cursed silently and brought the interface back up. Environmental controls were on it. In his hurry to bring back automation to the life support system, he'd given it to the engineering processor. The fact that they weren't all dead right now meant that it hadn't worked out the extent of what it had access to. He needed to fix this right now. And this concludes chapter 20 of Crimson. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next one is going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to catch me doing these live, fumbling my way through them. I do that every Tuesday morning. If you want to read the whole book, as well as the rest of the series, they are available on all major e-retail stores. You can reach them from my website. The link is in the note, as is the link to my Patreon, where you can support me and read many other stories that are published or going to be published. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.